Good afternoon, audience. Here in this live session, I am taking up the second chapter of Class 11, The Portrait of a Lady by eminent writer Khushwant Singh Ji. I am going to take up the text and explaining it paragraph by paragraph. I will be online maybe twice or thrice weekly for the purpose of 11th class students and explaining them the chapter wise explanation. So I am starting with the text. First paragraph reads as follows, like I'm going to start it. My grandmother. In this chapter, we have to keep it in mind that Khushwant Singh has given very vivid account of his childhood that he spent with his grandmother. When his parents left him with his grandmother, parents settled in a city and he lived alone with his grandmother. Everyone has quite vivid memories with their grandparents. So whenever we read this chapter, it's quite amazing to read this account that is very genuine account given by Khushwant Singh. So this is a subjective account given by the writer. He gives his personal experiences, how he felt while living with his grandmother. I am going to start. I welcome those who have joined me in this session. Yes, everyone. My grandmother, like everybody's grandmother, was an old woman. She had been old and wrinkled for the 20 years that I had known her. People said that she had once been young and pretty and even had a husband, but that was hard to believe. So I'll explain these lines. खुशवंत सिंह हमें बताता है कि हर एक बंदे की ग्रैंड मदर की तरह इनकी खुद की ग्रैंड मदर भी एक ओल्ड लेडी थी एंड पिछले 20 सालों से जैसा कि मैं उन्हें जानता था वो इसी तरह से बूढ़ी और रिंकल्ड फेस वाली लेडी थी. देखिए, मेरा ये मानना है कि कोई भी पर्सन ये बिलीव नहीं कर पाता कि मैं आज से कुछ सालों के बाद इतना बूढ़ा और रिंकल्ड फेस वाला हो जाऊंगा, और ना ही हम किसी भी बूढ़े इंसान को देखकर ये मानने को सोचते हैं कि ये कभी बहुत यंग या ब्यूटीफुल रहा होगा या रही होगी. सो विद दिस इन माइंड द राइटर इज शेयरिंग हिज एक्सपीरियंस विद अस that from the past 20 years he had been staying with his grandmother and she was the same old and wrinkled lady. Then again he expresses about his grandfather's portrait that was hanging above the mantelpiece in the drawing room. So mantelpiece is the shelf type of a structure that used to be there in the old drawing rooms. आजकल तो बिल्कुल डिफरेंट स्ट्रक्चर्स चल रहे हैं, आर्किटेक्चर के डिज़ाइंस बहुत सारे हैं, लेकिन जिस समय की बात हमें खुशवंत सिंह जी बता रहे हैं उस समय ड्राइंग रूम में एक ऐसा शेल्फ इट यूज्ड टू बी देयर where people used to keep decorations and so many articles like photo frames and so on. So the grandfather's portrait that was hanging above the shelf, and he describes the picture. Grandfather had been wearing a big turban with loose fitting clothes. Then he says his long white beard covered the best part of his chest and he looked at least 100 years old. He didn't look the sort of person who would have a wife or children. He looked as if he could only have lots and lots of children. Again the same feeling that the child could not imagine that once upon a time grandfather had been a young person. She often told us, as for my grandmother being young and pretty, the thought was almost revolting. वही वाली बात, बच्चा ये सोच ही नहीं पाता कि दादी जी भी कभी यंग और प्रिटी लेडी होंगी. So this was about the physical features of his grandmother. Again, in the next second paragraph I am taking up, and you can see on the screen. Yes, I am able to watch your comments. Okay. I'll explain to you. Kambar. Yes. The last line of the first paragraph is, that seemed quite absurd and undignified on her part, and we treated it like the fables of prophets she used to tell us. So the writer says she often told us of the games she used to play as a child. तो दादी जी अक्सर उनको अपनी कुछ बचपन की गेम्स के बारे में बताया करती थी जो कि वो खेलती थी जब वो खुद अपने बचपन में थी. तो ये सब सुनना राइटर को बहुत ही एक स्टूपिड एंड एब्सर्ड एक्टिविटी लगता था, बिकॉज जब राइटर यही इमेजिन नहीं कर पाता था कि दादी जी कभी यंग थी, तो दादी कभी बचपन में थी ये भी इमेजिन नहीं कर पाएगा, राइट. तो इसमें राइटर ने ये बताया है कि जब दादी जी अपनी कोई भी कहानियाँ बचपन की सुनाती थी जो कि उनके खुद के बचपन से रिलेटेड थी, तो उनको काफ़ी अजीब सा महसूस होता था. And they did not like it, and they felt that it was undignified on her part, and we treated it like the fables of prophets she used to tell us. So जिस तरह वो किसी prophets की स्टोरी सुनाया करती थी, अपने बचपन की स्टोरीज को सुनाना राइटर को उन्हीं prophets की स्टोरीज की तरह ही लगता था. I hope everyone is getting. Second paragraph, she had always been short and fat and slightly bent. In this full paragraph, the second paragraph, writer has explained about the physical characters of grandmother. So she was a slightly bent. She had a short structure. Her face was a crisscross of wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere. So she had a wrinkled face. She could never have been pretty, but she was always beautiful. दादी जी थे तो उनके साथ जो उसकी अटैचमेंट थी वो काफ़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग थी. That's why although she was not beautiful, but to the author she always looked pretty. She hobbled about the house in spotless white, with one hand resting on her waist to balance her stoop and the other telling the beads of her rosary. So she was a religious minded lady. ये जो हमें इंस्टांस दिया गया है, इससे हम ये समझ पाते हैं कि दादी जी, as she used to wear white cloths, spotless white, and she always she was ready to tell the beads of her rosary. Her silver locks were scattered Silver hair means white hairs. Untidily over her pale, puckered face, her lips constantly moved in inaudible prayer. So, religious mindedness is shown in this paragraph. चैप्टर नो डाउट बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है और इसमें जब हम इसकी थॉरो रीडिंग लेते हैं तो हम अपने बचपन में खो जाते हैं. कमिंग टू द सेकेंड पेज, थर्ड पैराग्राफ. My grandmother and I were good friends. My parents left me with her when they went to live in the city, and we were constantly together. She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. She said her morning prayer in a monotonous sing-song. So ये थोड़ा आपको समझना होगा. Monotonous sing-song relates to the routine prayer or the bhajans she used to sing while she bathed and dressed me up, in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. So दादी जी की ये कोशिश थी कि ऑथर को जब वो स्कूल के लिए रेडी करती थी तो उसे नहलाते समय और उसे ड्रेसअप करते समय वो कुछ ना कुछ भजन, इस तरह के कुछ सॉन्ग्स गाया करती थी ताकि ऑथर इसको अच्छे से याद कर ले. तो ये एक तरह के संस्कार वो अपने जो ग्रैंड सन है उसमें इंस्टिल करना चाह रही थी. आई लिसन बिकॉज आई लव्ड हर वॉइस बट नेवर बॉदर टू लर्न इट. सो दादी जी से अटैचमेंट थी, उनकी वॉइस ऑथर को पसंद थी, इसलिए ऑथर उनकी आवाज़ सुनने के लिए ही वो गाने या भजन सुनता था. Then she would fetch my wooden slate. So she would gather all the things that he needed to take to the school, including the tiny tiffin and ink pot and wooden slate, etc. So being a religious minded lady, देखिए सारे चैप्टर में दादी जी की जो कुछ हमारे पास कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स हैं, इसकी रिलीजियस माइंडेडनेस शो हो रही है. नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ में स्कूल जब वो पहुंच जाते हैं तो इट वाज अबाउट 2 or 2.5 hours that she used to sit outside and wait for the author. So there was a temple adjacent to the school where the author went. So I hope those who are live are getting the points I am explaining. So you can share this session to your fellow students so that they can also benefit themselves. So continuing. So grandmother used to sit there while the author studied in school for 2 or more hours. Then they both used to come back together to home. And third para, when my parents were comfortably settled in the city, they sent for us. Sent for, they called them. They called the author in city. So, दादी जी को और ऑथर दोनों को जब उनके पेरेंट्स अच्छे से सेटल हो गए शहर में तो उनको वहाँ पर बुलाया गया. दैट वॉज अ टर्निंग पॉइंट इन आवर फ्रेंडशिप. यस, तो बड़ी अटैचमेंट थी दादी जी के साथ, एक तरह का फ्रेंडशिप का बॉन्ड था. बट दिस फ्रेंडशिप बॉन्ड हैड ए टर्निंग पॉइंट. देयर वॉज समथिंग something we can say that was not liked by the author in his later years. अभी वो हमें चैप्टर में इसीलिए एक्सप्लेन कर रहे हैं. Although we had shared the same room, my grandmother no longer came to school with me. तो देखिए धीरे धीरे डिटैचमेंट वो थी स्टार्ट हो रही है. I used to go to an English school in the motor bus. There were no dogs in the streets and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of our city house. दादी जी की रिलीजियस माइंडेडनेस जो कि विलेज में वो डॉग्स को फीड करती थी विद द स्टेल चपातीज. बट हियर in the courtyard of the city house, she used to feed sparrows. As years rolled by, the last paragraph from this second page, as the time passed, तो क्या होता है, for some time she continued to wake me up and get me ready for school, but later when I came back she would ask me what the teacher had taught me. I would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning the law of gravity. So आपको ये सब चीज़ें ध्यान में रखनी पड़ेंगी. What he used to learn at the school, at the English school where he went in the city. So ये सब चीज़ें, law of gravity and so on, he used to learn there, and he used to tell his grandmother about this. She couldn't help me with my lessons. She didn't believe in the things they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the strict scriptures. One day I announced that we were being given music lessons. She was very disturbed. To her, music had lewd associations. So bad associations. वो म्यूज़िक को अच्छा नहीं समझती थी. जब उन्हें पता चला कि स्कूल में म्यूज़िक के लेसन्स भी पढ़ाए जाते हैं, तो she felt very bad about that. The next page, that was the monopoly of harlots and beggars, not meant for gentle folk. So दादी जी के अकॉर्डिंगली अच्छे भले मानसों के लिए म्यूज़िक की क्लासेस नहीं बनी थी. Next paragraph, when I went up to university, I was given a room of my own. So the facilities are changing. He grew up into a young man. The common link of a friendship was snapped. So underline this, you should underline this sentence, where their friendship bond had been snapped. So this was the time when he went to the university. At the time he was graduating, the friendship was totally snatched. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. Seclusion, loneliness. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. Here rarely means never. So she never used to spare the spinning wheel, जो जिसे हम चरखा बोलते हैं. तो हर समय वो जो है, she used to spin the cotton. From sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel, spinning the reciting prayers. Only in the afternoon, she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. So देखिए, being a religious minded lady, वो sparrows को feed करती थी और उसी टाइम में वो relaxed feel करती थी. Other than that, she used to sit on the spinning wheel and do the work. इस तरह से हमें पता चला है कि उनका जो रूटीन था, आफ्टर कमिंग टू द सिटी द होल रूटीन हैड चेंज्ड. Yeah, some students are asking me, I am good students. Yeah. And I hope these are beneficial sessions. Twice or thrice a week I'll be handling such kind of sessions. So in this effort of explaining, let us complete this chapter. But that was not so. After 5 years I came back. Little lines have been left. Let me complete. She came to leave me at the railway station. I was sure my grandmother would be upset when the author decided to go abroad for further studies. Grandmother felt a little upset, but then she went to bid farewell to his grandson. She went to the railway station but didn't talk to show any emotion. Her lips moved in prayers. So she had a complete belief in God. That's why she only prayed and didn't talk to anyone. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary. Silently, she kissed my forehead. In this way, she blessed her grandson. But author was not sure when, after returning from abroad, whether he will be able to meet his grandmother or not. In the second last paragraph, the author says, after 5 years I came back home and was met by her at the station. So she felt so happy when the grandson returned from abroad. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer, and with frivolous rebukes. Frivolous rebukes here, rebuke आप सब समझते हैं, डांटना. फ्रिवलस यहाँ पर हम कह सकते हैं कि मजाक की टोन में, जिस तरह से फनी वे में. शी डिड नॉट लीव, एक दिन के लिए भी उन्होंने फीड करना स्पैरोज को नहीं छोड़ा. और फर्स्ट डे व्हेन द ऑथर रिटर्न फ्रॉम अब्रॉड, इवन देन शी वाज डूइंग हर routine tasks. But in the evening, due to over happiness, some change came over her. She did not pray that day. Last paragraph from page number 12. She called the ladies, women of the neighborhood, got an old drum and started to sing. For several hours she thumped the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum and sang of the homecoming of the warriors. We had to persuade her to stop to avoid overstraining. That was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. So इतनी खुश थी दादी जी कि उस दिन एक ही दिन था, the whole life. Author says कि उन्होंने देखा कि दादी जी ने उस दिन प्रेयर नहीं करी और खुशी में गाने गाए. आसपास जो नेबरिंग लेडीज़ थी उनको बुलाया और खूब अच्छे से शाम को टाइम गाने गाए. द नेक्स्ट मॉर्निंग, लास्ट पेज, द नेक्स्ट मॉर्निंग शी वॉज टेकन इल. इट वॉज ए माइल्ड फीवर एंड द डॉक्टर told us that it would go, but my grandmother thought differently. She told us that her end was near. जैसे ही डॉक्टर को बुलाया गया, फीवर के बारे में पूछा गया, डॉक्टर ने बोला कि ठीक हो जाएंगी, लेकिन दादी जी ने बता दिया कि उनका अंत समय जो है वो काफ़ी क्लोज है. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the first chapter of her life, she had omitted to pray, she was not going to waste any more time talking to us. We protested. देखिए इस तरह से जो थे घर वाले वो परेशान हो गए, लेकिन धीरे धीरे दादी जी प्रेयर करती रही और शी वॉज ऑन द डेथ बेड और वो उन्होंने अपने अंतिम सांस ली. ए पीसफुल पेलर स्प्रेड ऑन हर फेस एंड वी न्यू दैट शी वॉज डेड. वी लिफ्टेड हर ऑफ द बेड एंड एज इज कस्टमरी लेड हर ऑन द ग्राउंड एंड कवर्ड हर विद अ रेड श्राउड. After a few hours of mourning, we left her alone to make arrangements for her funeral. So सारा अकाउंट ऑथर ने हमें दिया है किस तरह से दादी जी को वो विदाई के लिए लेके जाएंगे, फ्यूनरल के लिए उसकी सारी तैयारियों के लिए चल पड़े. In the evening, we went to her room with a crude stretcher to take her to be cremated. The sun was setting. Quite emotional ये जो अकाउंट है ऑथर दे रहा है. Sun was setting and had lit her room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. तो जाते हुए सूरज की जो किरणें थी वो उनके वरांडा और उनके रूम में भी दिख रही थी. We stopped halfway in the courtyard, all over the veranda and in her room, right up to where she lay dead, and still wrapped in her red shroud, thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. तो देखने को क्या मिला कि पूरे वरांडा में जहाँ पर उनकी डेड बॉडी को रखा गया था, एक रेड जो कफन था उनमें लपेट कर, वहाँ हज़ारों की जो है गिनती में स्पैरोज बैठी हुई थी. देयर वाज नो चर्पिंग बट नो वन uh, no sparrow was chirping or making any noise. We felt sorry for the birds, and my mother fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs, the way my grandmother used to, and threw it to them. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. तो देखिए स्पैरोज जो कि बर्ड्स हैं उनकी यहाँ पर इमोशनल स्टेट को एक्सप्रेस किया गया है. दे वर ऑल्सो क्वाइट सैड एट द डिमाइज ऑफ ग्रैंड मदर. देखिए ग्रैंड मदर का जिस तरह से इस समय पर जो है विदा करके जाना हुआ, तो बर्ड्स भी बहुत सैड नज़र आ रहे थे. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. When we carried my grandmother's corpse off, they flew away quietly. Next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. So, breadcrumbs उसी तरह पड़े रहे और next morning sweeper को वो breadcrumbs को डस्टबिन में डालना पड़ा. This was all about the chapter by Khushwant Singh. And I hope you can prepare this chapter and important questions like character sketch and some incidents in the story, this account given by Khushwant Singh. So I hope everyone would share this session so that more and more students can take the benefit of this life explaining. So I thank again to all those who were live and liked the session. Thank you all. Deepika and Herman. Yes, I hope you will share the session, and we'll be having more and more sessions like this. Thank you.